Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me at the Art Table again today. Artificial intelligence and the creative arts have been a topic of much discussion for the past couple of years. The debate has really heated up since we got chatbots that could attempt to simulate something like storytelling through their predictive text algorithms. However, the issue has really become interesting ever since we started to get artificially intelligent image generators. These study a large number of pictures and pieces of art from around the internet and attempt to then compile these into a predictive algorithm that will allow them to produce images when prompted. I've already done a video on these looking at some images other people have already created, and I discussed in that video some of the limitations I see present in the technology and some limitations I don't think we're going to be able to dispose with just because of the way AI works. I'm not going to rehash those in full here. I'll just remind you that artificial intelligence does not understand framing or cause and effect, and this is going to seriously limit its ability to generate images that match prompts, just because it doesn't understand some of the things that will happen in a prompt. For example, you may ask it to show you a man that has just been punched, but all you will ever actually get is most likely a man in the process of being punched. You won't find a person holding their jaw or lying flat on the floor. That is what you would have to ask for. And this has consequences in the generation and composition of an image. By the same token, an inability to understand framing of an image is also going to handicap an AI image generator. And that's what I wanted to look at today. I myself have gone to Stable Diffusion and plugged in several prompts in an attempt to get an image that I would consider dynamic or impactful. So let's go ahead and look at some of what I got. I started with the prompt, "Man asserts dominance." And I'm not going to lie, I was expecting to see a lot of T-posing because, well, that's the meme. I expected the AI to find a lot of memes of people T-posing and give me something like that. And in fairness, I did see a little bit of that, but let's look at the results in detail. This image doesn't really make sense at all. It looks like it's based on some kind of a cartoon. I'm not sure what either of these figures are supposed to be. I presume the man is on the right. I'm not sure what he's doing that stands for asserting dominance, but we have a caption that kind of looks like "man asserts," so that's something, I guess. This second one is a man raising his arms like he has just scored a touchdown or a field goal in football, except he's not dressed like a football player. I guess this could be considered asserting dominance because scoring points shows that you're better than the other team, but there's no context here to tell us whether this is scoring points or just a general celebration of success. Again, framing this as a person winning a game would make this an assertion of dominance, but as it is, it could just be aerobics, which doesn't really fit the prompt. Now, here's a T-pose, or at least something very close to it, and we also have a man looking pretty tough with his arms crossed in front of his body. Not terrible. This could be considered a portrayal of aggression, kind of like a grizzly bear rearing up on its hind legs. And actually, of all the results that I got from this prompt, I think this one was the best. But I was kind of frustrated by this first batch of images because it all gave me images from a flat angle. I was looking for something a little more dynamic. So I asked Stable Diffusion to rule out flat angles as part of the negative prompt. And this is what I got. Pretty much the exact opposite of what I asked for. We have a guy, admittedly T-posing, so yes, asserting dominance, but he's just looking at a wall, and we're seeing him from a flat angle. This is a really boring image. It doesn't really look like an assertion of dominance at all, T-pose notwithstanding. Actually, it's not even a very good T-pose, so maybe he's just waving for help. That's not dominant at all. Very disappointing. Now, this next image at least has the upside of being something of a close-up. And this guy looks like he's kind of in a boxing stance, although I don't know what's going on with his right hand there. It looks really funky. And the shadow of it looks like he's in the middle of throwing a jab, so maybe that's motion blur the AI didn't know what to do with originally. I have to admit, the more I play around with AI, the more I understand the concern of inadvertent copyright infringement. This looks like it's some boxer's promo photo that's just had a couple of weird blurs put over it. That notwithstanding, it does look kind of like a competent fighter. I'm not sure that counts as asserting dominance, though. He's more just in a regular stance. This one has that weird poster or motivational image thing going with it, where it has a weird logo and something that looks almost like words in the bottom. And it does look a little like it says assert dominance down in the bottom left-hand corner, but that's the only dominant-looking thing in here. The guy on the right just looks kind of emo. Again, he's kind of approaching a T-pose, so maybe it could have that mimetic value, but I don't see it. No idea what this is, but it's neither assertive nor dominant. So with all that done, I decided what I really needed to do was create a little more context for the image generator. I took out the prompt for no flat angles, and I decided to update the phrase to be man asserts dominance over his enemies. And we got this. The guy on the left looks like he's shaking a couple of weapons in the air. That is an assertion of dominance, kind of. I don't know if he's really doing it over his enemies, unless that's what the other two guys are supposed to be. Okay, this guy is pumping some serious iron. It's apparently attached to packs of dogs, for some reason. At least the dogs all look like they're staring at him, overawed by his dominance, so that's something. Now, this image may be the closest to what I'm actually asking for, because here we have a guy with a sword pointing it at the face of someone who looks like he is a little intimidated, kind of holding his hands out in supplication. This might actually qualify as an assertion of dominance. The man has defeated an enemy, and now he's winning. And there's also a bunch of nonsensical text there that we're just going to ignore. Last but not least, we have this, and I don't even know. I don't even know. It looks very pro-presenter. I'll give it that. It's not a compliment, by the way. Okay, a man asserting dominance has not gone as well as I hoped. Let's try and make it a little simpler. Let's ask Stable Diffusion for a woman in a dynamic pose. Or a woman flying high. And I'm just going to flip through these images real quick on the screen here, because they are all pretty much the same. As you can see, we have a woman in some kind of athletic or athleisure gear. In one case, a dress. And they're all in kind of a dancing pose. That seems to be what Stable Diffusion made out of that prompt. And that's very interesting that it chose that kind of interpretation for both of these. Only one of the flying high images has anything that looks like the sky in it, and that's the last one. Granted, the women don't always look like human beings as well. That's an issue that has more to do with, I'm sure, the learning program than anything else. But as you can tell, it really doesn't understand this concept of a dynamic pose or flying high. Now, after seeing all of these images, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Nate, you didn't really give it any guidance. You just gave it a couple of abstract words that it has to try and guess the meaning to. And yes, that is true. A human artist could frame those words and create a scene in their mind that they would then put down on paper. What is really necessary here is for the person who is running the AI to come up with the scene ahead of time and then ask for the AI to generate it. And I think that is actually one of the most valid answers to the critique that AI art is not art. I tend to agree with that. AI art is image generation. The artist still has to put into the image generator something that they want. They must still have a pretty concrete image in their head in order to get it out of the AI. I think eventually we will get to the point where the AI will understand words well enough that you can do that with a decent amount of regularity and get fairly predictable results, which is what is going to be necessary in order for AI image generation to become a useful tool for art. But I don't think we're there yet. I do, however, see a little bit of promise on the horizon. Let me show you one last set of images. These are what I got when I asked for a one-piece fight scene. As you can see, there is a lot of Monkey D. Luffy in these images, and a lot of things that might be some of his supporting cast. Now, this has some of the problems that I don't think AI is ever going to get rid of. It has no sense of composition. The images are very flat. All of these characters appear to be on the same plane, except for the fact that they overlap with each other. None of these things are particularly good, but we can tell that the AI has been well trained in understanding Oda's style because all of the characters that it has generated kind of look like they might have come from Oda's pen. They don't have his degree of draftsmanship or his inventiveness, but the AI understands the basic style. There's also a lot of that rubbery limbs going around that you see in Luffy's fights. All in all, there's something here. It's not good, but there's something here. And I think that if we can get AI that we can feed a set of images to train it, and there's probably a way to do that with Stable Diffusion, but if we could train an AI on a pre-existing style, say if you were an artist looking to have the AI help you concept locations or sets or something like that, and you could feed it a lot of your pre-existing style, it can mimic it very well. And it can even understand those kinds of unique flourishes, like the rubberiness of Luffy, for example, that it can incorporate to a certain extent into a generated image. However, given the inherent limits of AI, its inability to frame issues or show cause and effect, I don't see this as ever being anything more than a tool to fill out backgrounds, or perhaps something you can use to color art. Still, a very interesting thing to think about and look at. That's what I got for you today. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. There's a like button and a subscribe button down there. You can use those as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.